Here at Grace, each Communion Sunday, many of you know it's a bit of a different time that we have together where after hearing about what Christ has done already for us in his cross and resurrection, we also want to hear what is God doing in his world? What's he doing in and through his church? And sometimes we have people from our church share, but also other times we hear from certain partners that we have as a church. This season already, you've heard about different partnerships we have. That Adopt a Family was done in partnership with Bridge of Hope, that the Living Streams Ranch Christmas fundraiser this Friday we partner with. And one of the reasons we do that is because we want to partner with those working on the front lines with individuals in need in our community. We don't want to just serve to feel good about ourselves. We want to serve because there's real need that Christ has called us to respond to. And it's become somewhat of a Christmas tradition for us to have one of our partners from Access Services, Mark Boorse, come out each December. I'm grateful for it because Mark could be at his own home church, but he takes time to be with us to share what he's experiencing in walking with those who are living outside in these harsh conditions. So, Mark, thanks for coming up and sharing with us about how we can respond.
Thanks, Dave. And let's just make sure the technology works. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right, cool. Thanks for having me. And this has become sort of an Advent tradition for me. You've invited me back several times, which is really cool. Dave usually comes to me somewhere in October and says, hey, are you still good to do this? And I say, yeah, sure, I'm looking forward to it. And he comes to me at the end of November or mid-November and says, hey, are you still okay to do that? Which is code for, did you put it on your calendar, actually? So both of those things happen. I'm glad to be here. And looking back as I was preparing for today's conversation, I looked back at some of the other slide decks we've done in previous years, and it was really a pretty cool retrospective. I focused on a little bit of a different thing each time. Today, I want to come to the conversation around homelessness and housing and the crisis that we have in Montgomery County through the lens of my friend Matt. So the picture behind me is an encampment. This is Matt's site 5 years ago. I met him 5 years ago, and it was right around this time. We were heading into our first pandemic winter, and the people that we were supporting were faced with being locked out. We were locked in. Everybody who was living outside was locked out, and Matt and folks like him were being faced with a long winter outside for longer periods of time than they'd ever experienced before. And so what you're looking at is what we called a Camp COVID kit. It was a site that was designed to help people stay as safe and as comfortable as possible while they're outside for long periods of time. That's an ice fishing tent. It's insulated. We put a heater inside of it, a safe heater inside of it, so a cook stove, different things that would allow you inside that tent. There's snow on the ground, but inside it's 70 degrees inside that tent. So it was a way for us to establish some safety and comfort for people who were outside. And that's how I met Matt. This is, I think, 3 years ago. It's summer, obviously, but it's about 3-ish years ago. This is Matt's site again, also in the same encampment. It's in Pottstown. It was a wooded area. It came to be known as Tent City because sometimes it had about 30 people in there. The previous slide was Matt and about 5 or 6 other people, so it was much smaller then. But this is Matt's site. This is where Matt and his wife got married. His wife's name is Anja, and they met in their sort of travels together, and they got married at this campsite. There was a whole party. Somebody got a grill, and they catered it internally. They cooked for everybody. It was a really important event. And Matt and his wife Anja are now inside, but this was the moment outside where they got married. This is kind of hard to see, so I'll explain what it is. This is a pair of socks. These are merino wool socks. And that first winter, one of the things we did is we said to people, the folks who are living outside the longest need the best gear. And so we're asking the community, and we ask churches particularly, to donate merino wool socks. They're more expensive. You don't just have a pair of those lying around in your house probably, but we ask for those. And that first winter, we handed out 500 pairs of merino wool socks. It makes a huge difference for people whose feet are outside all the time. So Matt sent me this photo in the beginning of November, and he said, Anja and I just got out our winter clothes, and this pair of socks is here. And then he sent me this in a text about how a pair of wool socks looks like on that dresser. That's how it looks to an ordinary, to us as ordinary people, but the story behind it is really important. So I had forgotten this story, but Matt was talking to a group, a youth group actually, a group of young people, and he shared this story. He said, in the middle of the winter, there was this guy who wandered into an encampment. That was me. Some crazy guy, first thing in the morning, with a pack on him, and he started handing things out, and he gave me this pair of socks, and I still have them. So these socks are 5 years old, and he still has them, and for him, it's a tribute to how far he's come and the help that he got along the way. These two pictures are trees that are fallen down, and they're important for this conversation for a couple reasons. That top left corner, that is a tree that fell over in Hurricane Helene. So this is Asheville, North Carolina. And in this picture is the early cleaning up after the storm. Lots and lots of people lost their housing. And what happened as a result of that is a huge outpouring of relief work to the people who were stuck outside. And tiny houses are being built down there. People have donated RVs so that people could live in those RVs on their property while they are cleaning up and figuring out the longer term rebuild. The reason for that is because it's unacceptable for people to live outside during the winter. And they've been saying this all along. People need to be inside. They can't spend a winter in a tent. And so we need to help. And there has been this huge outpouring in that community, as there should be. The second tree on the right, bottom right, looks pretty similar, right? It looks like it could be a twin tree. This tree is in Pottstown. This is Tent City. This is where Matt was living. This is where Matt and Anja got married. Last year, or the beginning of this year, that encampment was swept. 25 people were told, you cannot live here anymore. And it was winter time, and they were told, you cannot live here anymore. And the minute they swept it, they brought in heavy equipment, and they tore out all the trees by their roots and left them there so that nobody could come back and live there. Right? So in the top picture, we have a response that says people can't live outside like this. We need to help. In the bottom picture, we say, you can't live here, find some other place to be, and we're going to make it so you can't live here outside, even though that's what you're trying to do. There have been 16 sweeps in a year in Montgomery County that has involved 130 people. 95% of them had to move someplace else outside. They did not get inside as a result of the sweep. And so it's really important that we know that and we can say that story. We don't respond to homelessness directly. We respond to the story that we tell ourselves about homelessness and the people who are struggling with it. In that top narrative, in Asheville, people are unfortunately outside and they're stuck and they need to be helped. In the bottom picture, it's people have done something that got themselves outside and they should do something different to get themselves inside. That's not a true narrative, but it's what's being told. And as people who are trying to help, we need to be able to say that narrative and share that narrative. So how can you help? You guys have been partners for years now, and so I am entirely grateful for that. I'm just listing some ways that you can continue to be helpful at this time of the year, at this moment. The first is to donate gear. In 2020, we had a crisis because of a pandemic. Right now, we have a crisis because we have so many people who are stuck outside. The housing crisis means that we're having more and more people stuck outside. Montgomery County has the third highest eviction rate in the state of Pennsylvania, so people are losing their housing at alarming rates. And the people who are losing their housing at alarming rates are older people who are on fixed incomes and can't keep up with the cost of living, and families with kids. When we started Access to the Street Outreach Program in 2017, we had about 150 people who were living outside that we were tracking with, and about 15 families were included in that. The number today is 600, and there are about 100 families that are living outside. So we have this exploding numbers of people outside, and they are stuck outside, so we need to gear them up well. So there's a couple ways to do that. There's the angel tree in the back of your foyer, and there are some gifts that you can purchase, some supplies, gift cards for Wawa or McDonald's are really helpful to people at this time of year. So there's there. There's also, and it'll be made available to you, but there's a wish list. And so it's an Amazon wish list. You just click on it. We all have Amazon Prime now. And so you can click, purchase, and have it shipped, and then we'll get it out to people. So gear is super helpful at this time of year. The second is that you can volunteer at a Code Blue shelter. The closest one to here, I think, is the Lansdale one. All of the shelters this year are struggling. Right now, they're struggling with having enough volunteers. And so we can also get to you, we'll make sure all this information comes into your church after today, where the shelters are and who to contact in order to check out volunteering. And there's multiple ways you can volunteer at a Code Blue shelter. There are about 180 shelter beds across the county right now. There are 600 people living outside. So even when we offer shelter and we can hotel 20 or so people every single night of Code Blue. Code Blue, by the way, is when it's 32 or below, and we're saying it's dangerous to be outside. We need to find ways for people to come in on an emergency basis. So we only have the capacity for about 1/3 of the need in the county. That's why we also need to gear people up really well. The third thing is to engage with people that you come across. We've had lots of people come to us saying, I see somebody at Wawa, or I see somebody on my way to work. How do I connect with them? What do I do? What do I say? How do I go about doing that? We have a one-page sort of cheat sheet. It's called Take Warm, and it's just an acronym that shows you how to sort of set up and do that. I brought them with me today. They're available in the back. It is possible that I spilled some coffee on the corner of that stack. If the marketing department is listening, they're saying, Mark, this is why we can't have nice things. But I'm hoping that you just choose to say he autographed it for us, okay? But that is out for you, and it's a really helpful tool to say, how do I just, as a human being, walk around in my day and interact with people who need support and need my help? And then the last thing is to join a growing movement. Connect, align, activate with other people who are part of this concern about how do we, particularly as a faith community, as people of faith, how do we reach out to the people, our neighbors in our community around us who are struggling? The Answering the Call series has been a series that we've been doing here at Access since June. So we're going to wrap up next month and in February. It's a monthly meeting for the public, and we talk through all of these topics about homelessness and how people can get connected to work that we are doing on a local level. The issue, the question for Answering the Call is, how can the church lead the community and responding to this great need that we have in all of our communities? And so that's the question that we are trying to answer in that series. And so you're invited to that. There have been a number of sessions that are on Zoom, and so they are recorded. And so if you are interested in sort of hearing or getting connected, even if you haven't been a part of that series, that information is available to you. Strongtowns.org is another thing. We just found these guys, and there are also a movement that says, how do we as communities create better housing for folks, and how do we create housing that's truly affordable for folks? And so that's just another, that's part of what we're doing right now as we come to the end of our Answering the Call series and think about what's ahead for us. And lastly, this is the answering the call. But lastly, I just want to reflect. We've heard a lot about community today, and what it means for us to live in community with each other. How should we be in community with the people around us? And particularly at Advent, when we think about the waiting and the anticipation of the arrival of Jesus. One of the things that when God says he's going to take care of his people, and when God takes care of the world, there's many ways that he's done that in history, but one of the main ways that he does that is he uses us. He said, I have people, and I'm going to use these people to care for my world. And so I want to just leave us with that thought, that part of the way we live out our faith, part of the way that we wait expectantly at this time is by living out our faith with the people around us in the benefit of our community. So, thanks.
Thanks, Mark. And